One evening, as they prepared for a rally, Marcus received a call from Detective Ramirez. "Hey, Marcus, I just wanted to touch base. We've been making some progress with the internal investigation," he said, his voice earnest. "Really? That's good to hear," Marcus replied, his heart racing with anticipation. "What's the next step?" "We're implementing new training protocols aimed at addressing implicit bias among officers. It's a small step, but it's a start," Ramirez explained. "I'd like you to be involved in the process to provide your perspective on how to make it effective." Marcus was taken aback. "Me? You want me to be part of the training?" "Absolutely. Your experience can help shape how we approach this issue," Ramirez said. "We need more voices in these discussions, especially those who have been directly impacted." The opportunity filled Marcus with a sense of purpose. "I'd be honored to help," he replied, his voice resolute. "This is exactly what we need to create lasting change." Despite the progress, not everything was smooth sailing. As the coalition gained visibility, so did opposition. Marcus began to receive messages from people who disagreed with his stance, some even threatening him for speaking out against the police. It was disheartening to see that the fight for justice could ignite such animosity. One evening, as Marcus and Jenna reviewed plans for an upcoming rally, they noticed an influx of negative comments on their social media posts. "Look at this," Jenna said, pointing at her laptop. "People are saying you're just trying to stir up trouble, that you're turning this into a race issue." "It's always a race issue," Marcus replied, anger simmering beneath the surface. "But it's frustrating to see people unwilling to acknowledge that. They want to maintain the status quo, and they'll go to great lengths to protect it." "We can't let them silence us," Jenna insisted, her resolve firm. "We have to keep pushing forward, despite the backlash." Marcus nodded, taking a deep breath. "You're right. This is about more than just me. It's about the countless others who have faced injustice. We can't let their voices go unheard." As they prepared for the rally, Marcus focused on the positive aspects of their movement. He thought about the lives they were touching, the awareness they were raising, and the changes they were starting to see. It was essential to keep the momentum going, even in the face of adversity. The day of the rally arrived and excitement crackled in the air. Marcus stood at the front of the crowd, the sun shining brightly overhead as people gathered in solidarity. Banners flew and voices rang out, united in their demand for justice. "Today we stand together as one community," Marcus shouted, raising his voice above the roar of the crowd. "We are here to demand accountability, to fight for our rights, and to challenge a system that has failed us for too long." The crowd erupted in cheers, their energy infectious. As he spoke, he felt a sense of hope blooming within him. This was what he had envisioned, a collective force pushing for change. Throughout the rally, various speakers took the stage, sharing their stories and calling for action. Marcus listened intently, moved by the resilience of those around him. Each voice added to the chorus of change, amplifying the urgency of their cause. As the event came to a close, Marcus felt a profound sense of connection with the community. This was not just about him, it was about everyone who had faced injustice, everyone who had been marginalized and silenced. In the days following the rally, the coalition received significant media coverage. Local news outlets ran stories highlighting their mission and the urgency of addressing systemic issues within law enforcement. Marcus felt a sense of pride in what they had accomplished together. However, the media attention also brought scrutiny. Some factions pushed back against the movement, framing it as divisive and unnecessary. Marcus received more messages filled with hate and vitriol, but he refused to let it deter him. Instead, he used it as fuel to continue the fight. During a meeting with the coalition, Marcus addressed the group. "We knew this wouldn't be easy, but we have to remain steadfast in our mission," he urged. "Our voices are powerful, and we can't let fear silence us." Jenna nodded in agreement. "Every time we speak out, we bring attention to the issues that matter. We're making progress, but we have to stay committed." The coalition brainstormed new strategies to maintain momentum and reach a wider audience. They discussed organizing town hall meetings, collaborating with local schools, and leveraging social media to share stories of those affected by police violence. The desire to create real change burned brightly in each of them. As the coalition grew stronger, Marcus received another call from Detective Ramirez. I wanted to update you on the internal investigation, he said, his tone serious. We're planning to implement a series of community engagement sessions, and I'd like you to lead them. Marcus felt a rush of excitement. Really? You want me to lead these sessions? Yes, we want community members to share their experiences, and your perspective as someone who has been directly impacted will be invaluable, Ramirez explained. Count me in, Marcus replied, a sense of determination swelling within him. This was an opportunity to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community, to foster understanding and collaboration. As he hung up the phone, Marcus felt invigorated. He knew that the road ahead would still be fraught with challenges, but he was ready to tackle them head-on. The fight for justice was far from over, and he would ensure that his voice, and the voices of those he stood with, would continue to resonate. The first community engagement session was held at a local community center, and Marcus felt a mix of anticipation and nerves as he prepared to speak. The room was filled with residents eager to share their experiences, and he could feel the weight of their stories hanging in the air. As he addressed the crowd, he emphasized the importance of dialogue. We need to create a safe space where we can share our experiences and listen to one another. This isn't just about pointing fingers, it's about understanding and finding solutions together. One by one, community members stepped up to share their stories. They spoke of encounters with law enforcement that left them feeling dehumanized, marginalized, and powerless. Marcus listened intently, each story resonating deeply within him. After the session, he felt a sense of camaraderie building in the room. People were exchanging contact information, discussing ways to continue the conversation, and brainstorming solutions. The shared vulnerability fostered a connection that transcended their individual experiences. As the sessions continued, Marcus saw firsthand the impact of open dialogue. Relationships began to form, trust was rebuilt, and a sense of hope flourished within the community. It was a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the potential for change when people came together. Despite the positive momentum, Marcus faced challenges as the sessions continued. Some community members expressed frustration at the pace of change, feeling that their voices were still not being heard. Others were skeptical about law enforcement's intentions, questioning whether real reform was possible. During one particularly heated session, a young man stood up, his voice shaking with anger. We've been told for years that things will change, but nothing ever does. How can we trust that this time will be different? Marcus felt the weight of the accusation and responded with sincerity. I understand your frustration. I've felt it myself. But we have to keep pushing for accountability. It's going to take time, but every conversation we have is a step in the right direction. The young man nodded, though his expression remained skeptical. We need to see action, not just words. Marcus recognized the truth in his statement. Change would not come easily, and he was determined to ensure that their voices would be amplified beyond these walls. We're committed to holding those in power accountable. This isn't just a discussion, it's a movement, and it's going to take all of us to make it happen. As the coalition gained traction, tensions began to rise within the community. Some residents felt a renewed sense of urgency to push back against law enforcement, while others sought to foster understanding and cooperation. The divide became increasingly apparent, and Marcus felt the weight of that division pressing down on him. One evening, as he prepared for another engagement session, Jenna called. Marcus, we need to talk. There's been a backlash against our coalition, and it's getting ugly. What do you mean? Marcus asked, alarmed. There have been protests against us, claiming we're trying to defund the police or undermine law enforcement. It's causing a rift in the community, Jenna explained, her voice tense. Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach. We're not trying to defund the police. We're advocating for reform, for accountability. How can they misunderstand that? I think some people are feeling threatened by the conversations we're having, Jenna said. It's complicated, but we need to address it head on. That's the only way to move forward, Marcus agreed, determination flooding his veins. We need to show them that our goal is to create a safer community for everyone, not to tear anyone down. In light of the rising tensions, Marcus and Jenna decided to organize a town hall meeting to address the community's concerns. They invited representatives from both the coalition and law enforcement to engage in an open dialogue. On the day of the meeting, the community center was packed, a mix of supporters and skeptics filling the room. Marcus felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him as he stood at the front, ready to address the crowd. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady. "We're here to have an honest conversation about the issues we face as a community. I know there are strong feelings on both sides, and I want to hear from each of you." The discussion quickly became heated, with voices rising and emotions flaring. Some residents demanded immediate action and accountability, while others expressed their support for law enforcement and the need for stability in the community. "Change doesn't happen overnight," one resident shouted, anger evident in her voice. "You're trying to dismantle everything we built." "I'm not trying to dismantle anything," Marcus replied, frustration creeping into his voice. "We're fighting for accountability, for a system that serves everyone fairly." The tension in the room escalated, and Marcus felt the weight of the moment bearing down on him. He could sense the divide growing, the possibility of real dialogue slipping away. Just as things began to spiral out of control, a local pastor stood up, her voice calm yet powerful. "Everyone, please," she urged, her hands raised. "We are all part of this community. We need to listen to each other, to understand where we're coming from. Anger will only drive us further apart." The room fell silent, the pastor's words cutting through the tension like a beacon of hope. "We may have different experiences, but we all want to live in a safe and thriving community. Let's start there." Marcus seized the moment, grateful for her intervention. Exactly. This isn't about choosing sides. It's about coming together to create a better future. We can advocate for reform while still supporting those who serve and protect us. As the conversation continued, Marcus felt the atmosphere shift. People began to share their personal stories, finding common ground in their desire for a safer community. By the end of the meeting, though tensions remained, there was a sense of understanding that hadn't been present before. In the weeks that followed the town hall meeting, Marcus noticed a shift in the community. The coalition continued to gain momentum, and more people began to engage in constructive conversations about reform and accountability. While there were still detractors, the overall energy felt more united. Detective Ramirez reached out to Marcus again, eager to discuss the feedback they had received from the community. "We're committed to making changes, and your input has been invaluable. We want to implement community outreach programs aimed at building trust between law enforcement and residents," he explained. "I'd love to help with that," Marcus replied, his heart swelling with hope. "We need to foster real relationships, not just performative gestures." As they brainstormed ideas, Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was the kind of change he had always envisioned, a collaborative effort to create a safer, more equitable community. With each passing day, the coalition grew stronger. More residents attended meetings, eager to be a part of the conversation. Marcus organized workshops where community members could share their experiences and work together to develop strategies for advocacy. At one of the workshops, a young woman named Jasmine spoke passionately about her experiences with law enforcement. "I've been stopped multiple times for no reason, and it's terrifying," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "I just want to feel safe in my own neighborhood." As Jasmine spoke, Marcus could see the impact of her words on the audience. The vulnerability she displayed resonated with others, and several people shared similar stories. They began to recognize that their experiences were part of a larger narrative, one that demanded attention. "Together we can create change," Marcus urged, his voice filled with conviction. "We can hold those in power accountable and ensure that our voices are heard." As the coalition gained visibility, they also attracted the attention of local politicians. A city council member reached out, expressing interest in attending one of their meetings. "I want to hear directly from the community about your concerns and ideas for reform," she said. The meeting was set for the following week, and Marcus felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. This was an opportunity to take their message to a wider audience, but it also came with the pressure of ensuring their voices were accurately represented. As the day approached, Marcus and Jenna prepared diligently. They wanted to present a unified front, showcasing the strength of the coalition and the urgent need for reform. When the day finally arrived, the community center was packed with residents eager to share their thoughts with the council member. As she took her seat at the front of the room, Marcus felt a surge of anticipation. "Thank you all for being here," the council member began, her tone earnest. "I want to hear your experiences and concerns. Let's work together to find solutions that will benefit our community." One by one, residents shared their stories, their voices rising in a chorus of determination. Marcus felt a sense of pride swell within him as he watched his neighbors stand up for what they believed in, demanding change in the face of adversity. Despite the progress, Marcus knew that the fight was far from over. He continued to face pushback from some residents who felt threatened by the coalition's efforts. Online harassment escalated, and rumors spread about the intentions of the group. One evening, as Marcus prepared for bed, he received a message from an anonymous account. "You're a traitor to your own people. Stay out of this or you'll regret it." Marcus's heart raced as he read the words. He had expected resistance, but this felt different. The threats were personal, aimed at undermining not just his work, but his identity. "Jenna, I need to talk," he texted, his fingers trembling. They met the next day at the cafe, and Marcus shared the messages he had received. "It's getting intense, Jenna. I don't want to back down, but I also don't want to put myself or others in danger." "I get it, Marcus," she replied, her expression serious. "But we can't let fear dictate our actions. If we give in now, we'll lose everything we've worked for." "I know, but I can't shake this feeling of vulnerability," Marcus admitted, running a hand through his hair. "I'm putting everyone at risk, and that weighs heavily on me." Jenna reached across the table, placing a comforting hand on his. "You're not alone in this. We have each other and the community. We'll figure it out together." With Jenna's support, Marcus found the strength to continue pushing forward. They organized a series of workshops focused on resilience and advocacy, aiming to empower community members to stand firm in the face of adversity. At one of the workshops, Marcus shared his own experiences with harassment and fear. "It's okay to feel scared," he told the group. "What matters is how we respond to that fear. We have the power to create change, even when it feels overwhelming." As he spoke, he saw the determination in their eyes. People began sharing their own stories of resilience, their voices filled with strength. The atmosphere shifted, and a sense of unity enveloped the room. "We're not just advocating for ourselves, we're advocating for our community, for future generations," one participant said, her voice unwavering. "We owe it to them to keep fighting." The words resonated deeply with Marcus. In that moment, he realized that their collective strength could overcome any obstacle. Together, they were a force to be reckoned with, and they would not back down. As the coalition continued to grow, Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. They began to plan a larger rally, one that would draw attention not just to their cause, but to the systemic issues affecting communities across the nation. "Let's make this rally about unity," Marcus urged during a planning meeting. "We can invite community members, law enforcement, and local leaders to come together and share their visions for a safer future." The idea was met with enthusiasm, and plans quickly took shape. Flyers were designed, social media campaigns were launched, and community organizations rallied behind the cause. Marcus felt a surge of hope as he watched the community come together, united in their desire for change. As the day of the rally approached, anticipation filled the air. The coalition organized a series of workshops and discussions leading up to the event, ensuring that community voices would be amplified. On the day of the rally, the atmosphere was electric. People filled the streets, their voices raised in a chorus of determination. Marcus stood at the front, flanked by Jenna and other coalition members, ready to address the crowd. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice ringing out over the throngs of people. "Today we stand together as one community, united in our call for justice, accountability, and change." The crowd erupted in cheers, the energy palpable. As he spoke about the importance of unity and collaboration, he could feel the crowd's energy rising, a palpable force of determination. Throughout the day, speakers took the stage, sharing their stories and advocating for change. The diversity of voices was a powerful testament to the community's strength, and Marcus felt a sense of pride swelling within him. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the crowd, Marcus stepped back to let others share their stories. He watched as people connected, shared laughter, and found solace in their shared experiences. In the days following the rally, The coalition received significant media coverage. News outlets hailed it as a turning point in the community's fight for justice. Marcus felt a mix of pride and responsibility, knowing that their message was resonating beyond their neighborhood. But with increased visibility came heightened scrutiny. Some residents continued to push back against the coalition, framing their efforts as divisive. Marcus received more threats, each one serving as a reminder of the challenges they faced. One evening, as he reviewed footage from the rally, he received a call from Detective Ramirez. "Marcus, I wanted to commend you on the rally. It was a significant step forward," he said. "Thanks, Detective, but I know we still have a long way to go," Marcus replied, feeling the weight of the ongoing struggle. "I want to help facilitate a meeting between community leaders and law enforcement," Ramirez offered. "We need to foster open dialogue and ensure everyone's voice is heard." "That would be great," Marcus said, feeling a sense of hope. "We need to keep the conversation going." The meeting was set for the following week, and Marcus felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. As community leaders and law enforcement representatives gathered in the same room, the atmosphere crackled with tension. Detective Ramirez opened the meeting, emphasizing the importance of collaboration. "Today we're here to listen to one another and find common ground," he said, his tone earnest. As the discussion began, community leaders voiced their concerns, sharing stories of discrimination and fear. Marcus listened intently, feeling the weight of their experiences. He knew that the issues they faced were deeply rooted, and it would take more than just words to affect real change. "Accountability is key," one leader asserted. "We need to know that our voices will be heard and that those who abuse their power will face consequences." Marcus nodded in agreement. "We need to work together to create a system that values transparency and accountability. It's not just about law enforcement, it's about rebuilding trust within our community." The conversation continued, weaving through concerns and solutions. Slowly but surely, walls began to break down, and the dialogue shifted from accusations to understanding. Marcus felt a sense of hope blossom in the room. As the meeting came to a close, Detective Ramirez offered a commitment to work alongside the community in implementing new training programs focused on bias awareness and de-escalation techniques. The promise of real change was palpable in the air. "We need to continue this dialogue," Ramirez stated. "Together, we can create a safer environment for everyone." Marcus felt a surge of gratitude wash over him. This was the kind of progress he had fought for, an opportunity to bridge the divide between law enforcement and the community. As people began to leave, Marcus exchanged contact information with several community leaders, eager to continue the conversation. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that their collective efforts could spark meaningful change. In the weeks that followed, the coalition continued to gain momentum. Marcus dedicated himself to fostering relationships within the community, ensuring that every voice was heard and valued. He reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point, how a moment of injustice had ignited a movement for change. One evening, as he sat in his apartment, he revisited the news articles covering their efforts. It was inspiring to see their story gaining traction, but he also felt a sense of responsibility weighing on him. The fight for justice was ongoing, and he would not rest until real change was achieved. Jenna called, her voice filled with excitement. "Marcus, you won't believe the response we're getting. People are rallying behind us, sharing their stories and demanding accountability." "That's incredible," he replied, a sense of pride swelling within him. "We're creating a movement." As they discussed their next steps, Marcus felt a sense of camaraderie with Jenna and the coalition. They were not just advocating for themselves, they were fighting for the future, a future where everyone would feel safe and valued in their community. As the coalition gained visibility, they received an invitation to speak at a national conference on police reform. The opportunity felt surreal, a chance to share their experiences and advocate for change on a larger stage. When the day arrived, Marcus stood before a packed auditorium, his heart racing with anticipation. He had spent countless hours preparing for this moment, knowing that their story could inspire others across the nation. "Thank you all for being here," he began, his voice steady. "Today we're here to share not just our struggles, but our triumphs, the power of community, and the need for real reform within law enforcement." As he spoke about the journey that had brought him to this moment, he could feel the energy in the room shifting. People leaned forward, their eyes focused on him, eager to hear his story. Throughout the conference, Marcus connected with other advocates and activists, sharing ideas and strategies for fostering change. He felt a sense of solidarity with those who had faced similar challenges, and it reaffirmed his belief in the power of community. In the weeks that followed the conference, the coalition continued to grow, drawing in supporters from across the nation. Marcus felt a renewed sense of hope as they collaborated with other organizations, pooling resources and ideas to amplify their message. They organized workshops and training sessions, educating community members about their rights and the importance of advocating for themselves. The response was overwhelming, and Marcus felt a sense of pride in the progress they were making. As they prepared for an upcoming rally, Marcus reached out to Detective Ramirez for support. "We need law enforcement to stand with us," he said. "It's essential that we show the community that there are allies within the system." Detective Ramirez agreed, and they worked together to organize a unified front. The rally would serve as a platform for community members and law enforcement to come together and share their commitment to reform. On the day of the rally, the atmosphere was electric. People from all walks of life gathered, their faces filled with hope and determination. As Marcus stood at the front, he felt a surge of pride in the community's resilience. "Today, we stand together as one voice," he declared, raising his voice above the crowd. "We are here to demand accountability, to advocate for justice, and to create a safer future for all." The crowd erupted in cheers, their energy palpable. As speakers took the stage, the message of unity and collaboration resonated throughout the event. It was a powerful reminder that change was possible when people came together. As the rally concluded, Marcus felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. They had created a movement, one that was dedicated to fostering change and building bridges within the community. In the months that followed, Marcus continued to work alongside the coalition and law enforcement to implement real change. They established regular community meetings, allowing residents to voice their concerns and engage in constructive dialogue. The relationship between the community and law enforcement began to shift. Trust was slowly rebuilt, and the once divided factions started to come together in a shared commitment to creating a safer environment. As Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. The fight for justice had been filled with challenges, but it had also opened doors to new possibilities. As the coalition gained visibility, their efforts attracted attention from local and national media. Articles and segments highlighted their work, shedding light on the systemic issues that had long been ignored. The coverage sparked conversations across the country, inspiring other communities to advocate for change. Marcus received messages from individuals who were inspired by their journey, and it reaffirmed his belief in the power of collective action. In the final rally of the year, Marcus stood before a crowd that had grown exponentially. "This isn't just about us. It's about the future we want to create for generations to come," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "We have the power to shape our communities, to demand justice, and to stand united against oppression." As he spoke, he saw the faces of those who had joined him in this fight, friends, allies, and community members who had become a part of his journey. Together, they had created a movement that would echo long into the future. As the years passed, the coalition continued to thrive. Marcus remained dedicated to his work, serving as a bridge between law enforcement and the community. He knew that the journey was ongoing, but he felt a sense of hope in the progress they had made. The changes they had fought for became a model for other communities, a testament to the power of resilience and unity. As he looked back on his journey, from the wrongful arrest to the creation of a movement, Marcus felt a deep sense of pride. He had transformed his pain into purpose, using his voice to advocate for justice and accountability. And in doing so, he had become a beacon of hope for others, proving that change was not only possible, but essential. Together, they would continue to fight for a future where every voice was heard, every life valued, and justice was truly served. The year since Marcus Adams had been wrongfully arrested was nothing short of transformative. The coalition he had helped build had grown into a powerful movement advocating for police reform and accountability. Communities across the nation were beginning to take notice, inspired by the unity and resilience of their efforts. As Marcus stood on the steps of the City Hall, He reflected on how far they had come. The sun bathed the crowd in a warm glow, and the air buzzed with excitement. Today marked the anniversary of their first rally, and they were gathered to celebrate their progress while renewing their commitment to justice. Thank you all for being here today, Marcus called out, his voice ringing with passion. A year ago, we stood together, united in our fight against injustice. And look at what we've accomplished. The crowd erupted in cheers, their energy palpable. It was a testament to the work they had done. Community meetings, workshops, and open dialogues with law enforcement had begun to bridge the gap between citizens and those sworn to protect them. As Marcus spoke about the changes they had initiated, he highlighted the police department's new training programs on implicit bias and community engagement. These were not just empty promises, they were tangible steps toward fostering trust and accountability. Together, we've made strides toward a safer and more equitable community, Marcus continued, feeling the weight of their shared achievements. But our work is far from over. We must continue to advocate for justice, not just for ourselves, but for all those who have been silenced. In the months that followed their anniversary rally, Marcus found himself increasingly involved in local and national conversations about police reform. His story had gained traction in the media, leading to opportunities to speak at conferences and workshops across the country. One day, he received a call from a national news outlet asking if he would participate in a roundtable discussion about systemic racism in law enforcement. We want to highlight voices from the community, and your perspective as an agent who has experienced this firsthand would be invaluable, the producer explained. Absolutely, Marcus agreed, feeling a sense of responsibility to share his story on a larger platform. It's essential that we address these issues head-on. When the day of the discussion arrived, Marcus found himself seated alongside activists, community leaders, and law enforcement officials from various regions. The atmosphere in the studio was charged with anticipation as they prepared to delve into difficult conversations. As the discussion unfolded, Marcus listened intently to the diverse perspectives shared around the table. One activist, a woman named Clara, spoke passionately about her experiences with racial profiling and the impact it had on her community. We can't ignore the fact that systemic racism exists within our law enforcement, she asserted. It's time to hold those in power accountable for their actions. Marcus nodded, his heart racing as he recalled his own experiences. I agree, Clara. As a Black man and a federal agent, I've seen firsthand how biases can affect our communities. We need to create a system that values transparency and accountability. The conversation flowed, tackling uncomfortable truths and seeking solutions. Marcus felt a sense of unity in the room, each participant committed to fostering change. As they concluded the discussion, he realized how vital these conversations were in shaping the narrative surrounding police reform. Inspired by the momentum of the discussion, Marcus returned home with a renewed sense of purpose. He connected with local activists and lawmakers to advocate for legislation that would address systemic issues within law enforcement. Let's draft a proposal that outlines the changes we want to see, he urged during a coalition meeting. We need to present a united front to our local representatives, making it clear that we demand action. As they brainstormed ideas, they focused on key points: enhancing training for officers on de-escalation techniques, implementing community oversight committees, and establishing clear protocols for addressing complaints against law enforcement. People need to feel safe reporting misconduct, Marcus emphasized. If we want to rebuild trust, we need to create a system where accountability is prioritized. The group worked tirelessly over the next few weeks, drafting a comprehensive proposal that encapsulated their vision for reform. When it was ready, they organized a meeting with local lawmakers to present their ideas. On the day of the meeting, Marcus felt a mix of excitement and anxiety as he and several coalition members prepared to present their proposal. They arrived at the City Hall, the building towering over them, symbolizing the power they hoped to influence. As they entered the conference room, Marcus glanced around at the faces of local representatives, each one a decision-maker with the ability to affect change. He took a deep breath, reminding himself of the importance of this moment. Thank you all for meeting with us today, Marcus began, his voice steady as he addressed the group. We're here to discuss the urgent need for police reform in our community and to present a proposal that reflects the voices of those we represent. The lawmakers listened attentively as Marcus and his fellow coalition members outlined the key points of their proposal. They spoke passionately about their experiences and the systemic issues that had led to mistrust between law enforcement and the community. As the presentation concluded, one of the lawmakers, Councilman Davis, leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. I appreciate your dedication to this issue. It's clear that there is a need for change, and I'm willing to work with you to explore these proposals further. Marcus felt a surge of hope. Thank you, Councilman. We need your support to make these changes a reality. Together, we can create a system that prioritizes accountability and community safety. While the meeting had gone well, Marcus knew that their journey would not be without challenges. As news of their proposal spread, they faced backlash from those who opposed police reform. Critics argued that the coalition was trying to undermine law enforcement and jeopardize public safety. One evening, as he scrolled through social media, Marcus stumbled upon a post that made his stomach turn. These activists want to defund the police. They're putting our community at risk. The comments that followed were filled with vitriol, anger, and fear. Feeling overwhelmed, Marcus reached out to Jenna. Have you seen the backlash we're getting? It's infuriating to see people twisting our message. I know, but we can't let it deter us, Jenna replied, her tone resolute. We have to stay focused on our goals. Our message is about accountability, not defunding. That's what we need to communicate, Marcus said, his frustration simmering. We need to clarify our position and emphasize that we want to work with law enforcement, not against them. They brainstormed strategies to address the opposition, crafting messages that highlighted the coalition's commitment to safety and accountability. Marcus felt a renewed sense of determination. They would not be silenced by fear or misinformation. To combat the growing tension, Marcus organized a series of community forums aimed at fostering dialogue between residents and law enforcement. He wanted to create a space where people could express their concerns, share their experiences, and ask questions directly to officers. The first forum was held at a local church, and Marcus felt a mix of excitement and nerves as he arrived. Community members filled the pews, their faces reflecting a range of emotions: curiosity, apprehension, hope. Thank you all for being here tonight, Marcus began, standing at the front of the room. This forum is an opportunity for us to come together, to listen, and to engage in constructive dialogue about the issues we face as a community. As the evening unfolded, residents began to share their experiences with law enforcement. Some expressed gratitude for positive interactions, while others spoke of fear and mistrust. The discussions were raw and emotional, revealing the complexities of the relationship between the community and law enforcement. When the police chief took the stage, he addressed the crowd with humility. I understand that there are concerns about our department, and I want to assure you that we are committed to improving our relationship with the community. We're here to listen and to learn. Marcus felt a sense of hope as the dialogue continued. The community was engaging, sharing their perspectives, and challenging law enforcement to do better. This was the kind of conversation he had longed for, a space where vulnerability was met with understanding. As the forums continued, Marcus saw a gradual shift in the community's perception of law enforcement. People began to feel more empowered to share their experiences, and the police department responded by committing to ongoing training on community engagement. Marcus felt a sense of dread as he watched the footage. This is exactly what we're trying to combat, he said to Jenna, frustration evident in his voice. All the progress we've made could be overshadowed by this one incident. We can't let it overshadow our work, Jenna replied, her tone firm. We need to address it head-on to show that we're still committed to reform and accountability. In the days that followed, Marcus and the coalition held emergency meetings to discuss their response. They called for an independent investigation into the incident and emphasized the importance of transparency. At a press conference, Marcus spoke passionately about the need for accountability. This incident is a reminder of the work that still needs to be done. We must hold those in power accountable and ensure that incidents of excessive force are addressed swiftly and transparently. In the wake of the incident, the coalition mobilized quickly, organizing a rally to demand accountability and support for reform. They reached out to community members, urging them to come together and make their voices heard. As the day of the rally approached, Marcus felt a mix of anxiety and determination. He knew the community needed to see that they were united in their demand for justice. On the day of the rally, thousands gathered in the city square, their voices ringing out in solidarity. Banners waved and chants filled the air, creating a powerful atmosphere of unity and purpose. Today, we stand together to demand justice, Marcus called out, his voice echoing through the crowd. We will not be silenced. We will not accept anything less than accountability. The crowd erupted in cheers, their energy palpable. As Marcus looked out at the sea of faces, he felt a sense of hope wash over him. They were not alone in this fight. They were part of something much larger. In the aftermath of the rally, momentum continued to build. Local lawmakers expressed their support for police reform, and discussions began about introducing legislation that would address systemic issues within law enforcement. Marcus worked closely with community leaders and lawmakers, advocating for comprehensive reforms that would promote accountability and transparency. They focused on key points such as establishing independent oversight committees, implementing community engagement initiatives, and enhancing training programs for officers. Now is the time to act, Marcus urged during a meeting with lawmakers. We have a unique opportunity to create lasting change, and we must seize it. As the discussions progressed, Marcus felt a sense of optimism. The coalition's efforts were gaining traction, and they were on the cusp of creating meaningful reforms that could impact the community for years to come. However, not everyone supported the proposed reforms. As discussions gained visibility, opposition began to grow, fueled by fear and misinformation. Some residents expressed concerns that reforms would compromise public safety. Marcus received numerous messages on social media, many filled with hostility and threats. "You're putting our families at risk. How can you support these changes?" one message read. "It's frustrating to see people misunderstand our intentions," Marcus said during a coalition meeting. "We need to find ways to communicate that our goal is to create a safer community for everyone." Jenna nodded in agreement. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. We need to continue engaging with the community, showing them that reform doesn't mean losing safety." Together, they brainstormed strategies for addressing opposition. They crafted messages that emphasized the importance of accountability and community safety, highlighting that reforms were not about defunding the police, but rather about enhancing trust and cooperation. As they prepared for another community forum, Marcus felt a sense of urgency. It was crucial to address the concerns of those who felt threatened by the proposed reforms. He wanted to create an environment where people could express their fears and seek understanding. At the forum, Marcus opened the floor for discussion, encouraging attendees to share their thoughts and concerns. "I want to hear from all of you. This is a safe space where we can engage in honest dialogue." A resident stood up, her voice shaking with emotion. "I'm scared. I've lived in this community my whole life, and I don't want to see crime increase because of these changes." Marcus nodded, understanding her fears. "I hear you, and I want to assure you that our goal is to create a safer community for everyone. Reform is about holding officers accountable for their actions, not about compromising public safety." The conversation continued, with residents voicing their concerns and engaging in constructive dialogue. As the discussions unfolded, Marcus felt a shift in the atmosphere, a growing sense of unity as people began to understand that their shared goal was the safety and well-being of their community. With each community forum, Marcus saw relationships strengthen between residents and law enforcement. They began to work together to create solutions that address the root causes of crime while promoting accountability. Detective Ramirez continued to attend the forums, engaging with the community and demonstrating a commitment to change. "We're here to listen and to learn," he said at one meeting. "We want to work alongside you to build trust and foster understanding." The community response was overwhelmingly positive. People began to see that there were allies within law enforcement, individuals dedicated to creating a safer environment for everyone. It was a turning point in their collective journey. Chapter 13. Legislative Progress. As the coalition's efforts gained visibility, local lawmakers began to take notice. They were inundated with calls from constituents demanding accountability and reform. Marcus felt a renewed sense of hope as discussions progressed. Finally, after months of advocacy, the proposed legislation was introduced. The council scheduled a hearing to discuss the reforms, and Marcus felt a surge of excitement and anticipation. "This is it," he said to Jenna as they prepared for the hearing. "We have the chance to make our voices heard on a larger stage." As they arrived at City Hall, the atmosphere was charged with energy. Community members gathered in support of the legislation, their presence a testament to the power of collective action. The hearing began, and Marcus stood before the council, ready to present their case. "Thank you for allowing us to speak today," he began, his voice steady. "We are here to advocate for meaningful change in our law enforcement system, to create a safer and more equitable community for everyone." He detailed the coalition's efforts, emphasizing the importance of accountability and community engagement. The stories shared by residents echoed throughout the room, resonating with lawmakers as they listened intently. As the hearing came to a close, the council members expressed their support for the proposed reforms. The excitement in the room was palpable, and Marcus felt a sense of pride swell within him. Finally, it was time for the vote. Council members cast their ballots, and the room fell silent as the results were tallied. When the results were announced, a wave of relief washed over Marcus. The legislation passed. Cheers erupted in the room, and Marcus felt tears of joy welling in his eyes. They had fought for this moment, and it was a testament to the power of community and collective action. With the legislation passed, the work was far from over. The coalition shifted its focus to the implementation of the reforms, working closely with law enforcement to ensure that the changes were enacted effectively. As they began to roll out the new training programs, Marcus encountered challenges along the way. Some officers were resistant to the changes, feeling threatened by the increased scrutiny. During a training session, an officer voiced his frustrations. "We already do our best to serve this community. Why are we being singled out?" Marcus felt the tension in the room. This isn't about blaming anyone. It's about creating a system where everyone is held accountable. We want to ensure that every interaction is grounded in respect and fairness. As the training continued, Marcus remained committed to fostering understanding and collaboration. He emphasized the importance of community feedback, encouraging officers to engage with residents to build trust. As the months passed, the coalition continued to gain momentum. Their efforts inspired similar movements in neighboring communities, sparking a nationwide conversation about police reform and accountability. Marcus began receiving invitations to speak at conferences and events, sharing their journey and advocating for change. He felt a profound sense of purpose as he connected with others who shared his vision. During one of these events, Marcus met a fellow advocate named Alex, who had been instrumental in organizing protests for police reform. "Your story is powerful," Alex said, his eyes filled with admiration. "We need more voices like yours in this movement." Marcus smiled, feeling a sense of camaraderie. "It's about all of us coming together to create change. We can't do this alone." As they collaborated on strategies to mobilize communities for reform, Marcus felt a renewed sense of hope. The movement was growing, and together, they were building a network dedicated to accountability and justice.